I am powerless over drugs and alcohol and codependency. My name is Arlene, and today I choose recovery. And I totally choose recovery. Today I need to choose recovery more than ever before. Today I need to choose to attend a meeting, even if it's a Zoom meeting. Today I need to choose to call my sponsor. Today I need to choose to continue to work my 12 steps. And yes, I still work the steps because the steps are never finished. They go on and on. They're a way of life. Today I need to choose to do some form of serving God by helping another person. Today I need to choose to draw closer to Jesus more than ever before because my addictions, afflictions, and compulsive behaviors don't stop just because there's a pandemic hanging around, and also because in this new COVID-19 world that we're living in, I'm beginning to realize that all sorts of other things that used to give me any kind of security, for instance, the entire arrangement of society as I knew it, these things are actually not a stable foundation whatsoever, and they never were. Jesus, 12 steps, sponsor, meeting, service, on the other hand, these things, now they are a stable foundation, and I can trust them. Today I choose recovery because I need to do it in order to stay clean and sober and sane. And sane, in fact, before we get going, as a boost to our sanity, let's take a moment out from the serious stuff and let's give ourselves some permission to just laugh. Watch this. You know, I think that the writers of these memes, they're just so valuable right now. They all ought to get like free Krispy Kreme donuts for life or something. Thank you, meme writers, for helping us laugh to keep sane. And sanity. Sanity is the part of recovery that I want to focus on today in this little talk that we're having now. I don't think I'm going to drink or use today, be it COVID-19 or not, but whether I'm going to stay sane through COVID-19, now that's another topic altogether. And I think all of you might be tracking with me. Because even though we take a moment to laugh, a lot of people are experiencing another kind of virus other than COVID-19 that is paralyzing and terrorizing them, and it's this. It's fear. It's fear. It seems that everyone is experiencing some sort of fear in these days, and I'm here to tell you that if you're fearful, you are not alone. I'm experiencing it too. There seems to be so many things to be afraid of in this new rearrangement of the world. For instance, I know people who have lost their jobs. And they're experiencing fear of losing everything. We all know a stimulus check is only going to go so far, right? And I've spoken to people who fear that their jobs will end in the future, even if they haven't yet, because they don't have any savings, they don't have anything, they don't have no safety net. And I know people who fear getting sick from the virus and suffering and dying because they have some health issues. And I know people who don't have health conditions, and they're afraid of getting sick as well because people are depending on them. And then there's the fear of infecting other people. I've spoken to a lot of folks who fear for their sobriety in this time when we can't physically attend meetings or do recovery the way we're used to doing it. There are just so many fears. There's the fear, I know moms and dads who fear for their kids getting behind in school, and moms who fear being at home with their kids, dads who fear that too, not knowing how to do it because they've never had to do it before. They don't have the skills, they don't have the resources. And then there's the fear of isolation, of boredom, of hopelessness and depression that is the result of all of the above. You know, the news tells us how the suicide rate is rising and the virus death toll gets higher and higher, and more society shutdowns are happening, and nobody, not even the health professionals, really know what to do. The news informs us, but along with the information, the news also brings us more fear. And we, as recovering people, we're experiencing fear just like everyone else in the world. I experience it as well. As recovering people who are supposedly relying on God, you know, you might even feel guilty about feeling fear. You might have heard that fear and faith can't exist together and you're not trusting God enough. Maybe you even beat yourself up over it when you see how well all of your friends are supposedly doing when they post on Facebook. Listen, I feel you. I feel you. As a pastor who is in recovery for more years than a lot of you have even been alive, certainly I should have no fear whatsoever in a global health pandemic, wouldn't you think? Well, the truth is, not so much. Truth is, everyone, me included, experience fear. And I'm here today to help you get saved all over again. Today, I want to tell you something that may just be like your aha moment of the day when I tell you this. So listen up when I tell you this. Fear is actually good. Yes, fear is good. Fear is good, but keep listening, okay? Keep listening to this chat until the end, because if you turn me off now, you're only going to end up with a small part of the story, and it won't help you at all. In fact, you'll just get worse, okay? But yes, first, I want to help you to relax by telling you that fear is good. Take a deep breath. I mean it. Breathe deep. Relax. Listen up. Your fear is actually trying to help you. Here's what the recovery book, Practice These Principles by Ray A. reminds us of. Let me read it to you. Fear and anger are said to be primal protective emotions. Fear exists because danger exists. Danger is an objective fact of life. It's real. Fear alerts us to the possible existence of peril and enables us to defend ourselves against potential harm. It's a necessary internal alarm system. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Fear is necessary. Fear is trying to protect you. Your fear is telling you that danger exists and that the danger is real. And fear is warning you so you'll know how to defend yourself. You know, fear is your very own internal COVID-19 warning alert, just like the ones, you know, that we get on our phone, right, that scream at us, dun, 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 right? It's our own alert. Fear is letting you know that something needs to be done, that you need to take some action to protect yourself. You know, without fear, what would the world be? I mean, without fear, we would all just jump off a high-rise building because it seems like it would be fun to float to the ground. Without fear, we'd just all run into the street during traffic, just figuring cars couldn't possibly maim us for life. Without fear, we would all just ignore social distancing and gather recklessly during a health pandemic and not figure anyone in the world might possibly be hurt by this insane behavior, which would not be smart at all, but I digress. In any event, fear is good. It's here to help you, so don't be too hard on your fear. In fact, the first thing maybe you ought to do, you ought to just settle on this during this really dangerous time is just admit that you're afraid. It's okay. It's okay. Your fear is good. There's danger here. Yes. Your fear is warning you about it. You can say, thank you, fear. Thank you, fear, for doing a job within our emotional makeup as intelligent beings. Thank you, fear. So if fear is all that good stuff, then why is there all this talk about how we should not be afraid then? Shouldn't we all just run around in a panic all the time? Well, no, not exactly. Let's allow the Practice These Principles book and the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous give us some more insight as to what the flip side of healthy fear is. This is what it says. It says, thus, when AA tells us that our goal is to be free from fear, it's not suggesting that we'll cease to experience fear. What it's suggesting is that we can be free from a certain kind of fear, the fear which is an evil and corroding thread running through human existence. You know, what I get from this is that there's a type of fear that is actually not good. And it isn't the protect us at all costs type of fear. There's a type of fear that's actually not good because instead of protecting us, instead it paralyzes us from being able to go forward. This is the fear that doesn't offer a way out, that doesn't say that there's danger ahead and we should do something about it, but a fear that says instead that there's nothing we can do about it. We will never find a way out, and even if we did, it wouldn't satisfy us. Especially in a situation like we have now, this corroding type of fear keeps me in worry and anxiety because there's simply no way for everything to work out exactly the way I want it to. And the only possible emotional response to that is helplessness translating to anger or despair. You know, that kind of fear is the stuff that made somebody say this little gem that I remember: worrying does not take away tomorrow's troubles. It takes away today's peace. And that's the truth, if I ever heard one. And then there's this guy who is so famous I can not even pronounce his name, but hey, you can give it a whirl, LOL. He who fears he shall suffer already suffers what he fears, by Mitchell Day, whatever his name is. Yes, this kind of suffering fear is the kind of fear that can't be cast out with a simple thanks for reminding me there's danger here, fear. I shall adjust my course as a result of your caring about me, fear. Because this kind of corroding fear chains me to terror that things won't work out the way I thought that they would, or the way I want them to, or even the way they should in what we think of as a perfect world. And it's precisely this kind of fear that we need to be rid of. You know, an ancient Chinese proverb says this, and I can't help it. Even though it's an ancient Chinese thing, it still feels to me like it needs to be said in a New York Italian mom voice, okay? This is what I think. That the birds of worry and care fly over your head, this you cannot prevent. But that they build nests in your hair, this you can prevent. All right? So we need to be rid of the corroding type of fear that's so crippling to our sanity that might let us white-knuckle our actual sobriety, but it'll never allow us to have true peace. We have to be rid of it. So the first reminder that I want to give you to help break the power of this crippling kind of fear is this. I want to remind you of this, that Jesus is real, that he hasn't gone anywhere, that he is with us, and that he loves us. Let me personalize it for you. Jesus hasn't gone anywhere. He is with you. And he loves you. Here is the thing that I personally have to remember on a daily basis, on many times hourly basis, and sometimes minute by minute. When it looks like Jesus might not be anywhere to be found, that's when I stopped to remember that there was another time. There was another time when it seemed like Jesus wasn't anywhere to be found. It was centuries and centuries ago. It was right after he was crucified, and he was buried in the tomb. And all of his followers were dumbstruck. I mean, these were Jews who had waited for centuries and centuries to be freed from oppression by a Messiah, and the Messiah had finally come. And not only had they not been freed, but now the Messiah was dead. How could the Messiah die? Was he really the Messiah after all? all their dreams were shattered. You know, when you and I are in the unhealthy fear cycle, it can feel like all our dreams are shattered as well. We might have had a nice, neat recovery plan, and our relationship with God seemed to be going very well, and now this. It might have seemed like our jobs and friends and service projects were all going just right, and then now this. And even if everything wasn't perfect, at least it seemed to be a hope that it would eventually be, and now this. Everything turned upside down. You know, perhaps it feels like Jesus isn't around and couldn't care less. But here's what I need to remember that happened next to those followers of Jesus centuries ago. There came a time on Easter morning when the stone was rolled away and Jesus rose from the dead. He hadn't gone anywhere. He was still with them. He still loved them. He really did care. And friends, I'm here to share with you that the same is true today. This is a serious pandemic that we're in. I know it. And yet the words of Jesus still ring true for us now as it did for his disciples back in the day, who by the way, never did end up getting the sort of Messiah that they were counting on, but they got something better. These are the words of Jesus recorded in Matthew 6:25 through 34, his very words. He says, "So my counsel is, don't worry about things, food, drink, and clothes, for you already have life and a body, and they're far more important than what to eat and wear. Look at the birds. They don't worry about what to eat. They don't need to sow or reap or store up food, for your heavenly Father feeds them. And you are far more valuable to him than they are. Will all your worries add a single moment to your life? And why worry about your clothes? Look at the field lilies. They don't worry about theirs. Yet King Solomon in all his glory was not clothed as beautiful as they. And if God cares so wonderfully for flowers that are here today and gone tomorrow, won't he more surely care for you, O men of little faith? So don't worry at all about having enough food and clothing. Why be like the heathen? For they take pride in all these things, and they're deeply concerned about them. But your heavenly Father already knows perfectly well that you need them. And he will give them to you if you give him first place in your life and live as he wants you to. So don't be anxious about tomorrow. God will take care of your tomorrow too. Live one day at a time." You know, I think there are a few things here that have convinced me when I've read it that Jesus is real, that he's still here, he hasn't gone anywhere, and that he's with me, and that he loves me, and that he really does care. And the first thing Jesus says to do is to look at the birds. He says, look at the birds. You know, I think this is a good way to fight the paralyzing fear of not having enough of what we want or need, be it physical needs or financial needs or social needs or recovery skills to survive this, whatever. Jesus says, go outside, look at the birds. And you know what? I've been doing this. I have been doing this. There's something about not being able to go anywhere to distract me that has made me actually go and look at the birds. I've been listening to them too. You know, they still seem to be doing fine. And I am convinced that if Jesus cares for them, then he cares for me more. But here's my problem. My problem is that I want more than just what Jesus gives the birds. And that highlights a character defect that I've always had, which is wanting what I want the way I want it. And then what does Jesus say next? Jesus says, look at the lilies of the field. I think this is another way Jesus is telling me that he's here and that he hasn't gone anywhere and that he loves me and he cares. So I've been going outside quite a bit, and I've been looking at the beautiful plants and all the little bugs on them. And while I'm at it, looking at the sky and listening to the wind where I hear the voice of God if I'm just still enough. And maybe that's why God says, be still and know that I am God. The flowers do seem to be well clothed. And I'm convinced that God does love me more than he loves the flowers. But then again, I want more than what Jesus has given the flowers. I want more than that. And again, this just highlights for me a character defect I've always had in my recovery, which is just wanting more. Just always wanting more. And then what does Jesus say? Jesus says that if we're not like the heathen, caring about worldly things, God will give us all that we need if we make him first in our life and live for him. And it's good that he's going to give us all that we need. and we don't have to worry about that. But here's the deal. I want what I want as well. I don't just want what I need. I want what I want. That's a character defect. Always wanting, wanting, wanting. And then he adds this little gem. Live one day at a time. Live one day at a time. This is such a good direction from Jesus to keep us from paralyzing fear. But you know what my character defect is? This highlights impatience in me. Impatience. I want to see what's beyond today. I want to peek into tomorrow. Now, please, if you would. Now. I don't want to have to wait for it. So to fight the paralyzing fear that's not good for us, we can take the positive step in our recovery to look at our character defects. That's step 6 and 7. We can list them out. We can look at them and share them with our sponsor and ask Jesus to please take them away. You know, for me, some defects this era of COVID highlight are my impatience, my need for more, wanting what I want the way I want it and when I want it, my dislike of change, and there are other things. You know, once we've inventoried ourselves and we've shared it with another person and we've become willing for God to remove our defects of character, and then we've asked him to do so, then our paralyzing fear will begin to wane because we'll have done what we can do to be tracking with Jesus again, come what may. You know, the book Practice These Principles tells us the results of working a program like this. It says, as we grow spiritually, we come to see everything that we have and everything we may get in entirely different terms as blessings. We value them as the gifts of a loving and a gracious God. The giver becomes more important than the gifts, and we depend on him for our own value, not on them. We're not fearful of not getting what we want, for we trust we will be given what we need. And we're not fearful of losing what we're given, but grateful for having received it. And when we lose it, as we will, for we will lose each and everything that we have, we will be grateful for the time that we had it. You know, and as our recovery literature tells us, by this time sanity will have returned, and we will be on track of emotional sobriety as well as our physical sobriety. You know, there's nothing we can do about COVID-19, but we can still have a peace that passes all understanding in the midst of it, as the Bible puts it. And it's called the peace that passes all understanding because there is no good reason to have it based on what's actually going on. And we can be enjoying one day at a time, as the Serenity Prayer says. Enjoying it, not just enduring one day at a time. As the Psalms put it in Psalm 23:4, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. And this is good news. So appreciate your healthy fear. Listen to it, thank it, do healthy things in this serious time as your healthy fear tells you to do. And work your recovery program on your unhealthy fears, as I will be doing as well. And be comforted as you go by Jesus, who's with you wherever you are. Enjoy the birds and the flowers and the goodness of what God has given you, not what he hasn't given you. And enjoy the people who write stupid memes. This is important because stupid meme writers will comfort us as well. And let them. In closing, watch this. So that was the time that we want to spend in prayer and honesty and gratitude to God. We're going to have one more song, and in this time, sing along and pray and cry out and give thanks and rejoice and weep and write some prayer requests or thoughts to the folks who are hosting the Facebook Live and the online chat, or do all of the above or do none of the above. Let me pray. God of all comfort and laughter and tears and rejoicing, we offer ourselves to you today to grow closer to you and to be able to grow in our recovery. Today, as always, lots of fears these days, Lord. You know it well. But through it all, let us walk in step with you at each precious, gifted moment you've given us. In Jesus' name, amen.